Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are and whatever time you might be listening. I am Jaidei Jackson, and I also have my special guest with us today, and Dr. Natasha LaMarr. And we are here talking about this, to me, what I think is a very interesting topic: emotional incest. And I just want to briefly have Dr. LaMarr just introduce herself and maybe give us a definition of what emotional incest is.
Whew. So it's been a long time since we've been together. So this is interesting. I'm excited. This is a very interesting topic. I think when people hear the word emotional incest, automatically they think of the incest that relates to a child and a parent, or a family member or a sibling and a child. But it's nothing like that. It's actually also called covert incest. And it's just when the lines in a relationship has been blurred, and this can happen with a mom or with a dad or with a caregiver or with an adult that have rights, or I want to say parental rights over a younger person, just having those lines blurred, getting their emotional satisfaction from a child or younger person. So that's kind of what emotional incest is. And I think this is a good topic to talk about because I think it happens more than we acknowledge. And I don't want to point out a community that I think it happens a lot in, but I notice when I work with a lot of African American males, not all, but some of them would have had these relationships with their mom, and it shows up in how they are being a husband to their wife. And sometimes I think it's an indication that there was probably some emotional incest going on when they were younger. So yeah.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you, there's this inappropriateness that's happening between the adult and the child.
Yeah.
And it tends to focus more around caregiving, where
Hmm.
it's either for me, where I've noticed it is with moms. Not to say that it doesn't happen with dads,
Mm.
because dads can do the same thing with their daughters. But I tend to notice more so with boys and their moms, where there's
Yeah.
this where mom is not. I don't think there's any malicious intent behind it, but it's just that boys are wanting to take care of their moms, and they may see this void, and they step in,
Hmm.
and so thereby they're like, "How are you doing?" And so mom is now talking and venting and
Right.
sharing
Right.
appropriate conversations with her son or her
Right.
child.
Right. Because when you said mom, my mind went straight to daughter, and I'm like, I can imagine it happens. I've seen it with a daughter and a father. I've seen it. I've seen it before. As a matter of fact, I've seen it quite often, but I see it more with moms and their sons. And also, I'm going to be honest with you. I also think it's a cultural thing, right? I think it's a cultural thing as it relates to how um, and I'm gonna say, I don't want to say all moms, but how, moms, black moms want to protect their sons because they know what society has out there for them compared to their daughters. And so like there's this protective thing that happens. And I think it's in instinctual. I think it's like this innate thing that happens. But if we're not careful, or if a mom isn't clear on what healthy boundaries are, then she will definitely project or put her stuff onto her son, which could cause blurred lines and an inability for her son to be able to create healthy relationships, because he's always seeking relationships where he had to take care of somebody, or feel tethered to the mom even after he's married. And mom reinforces it, right? Like, I'm your mom, I come first, when the truth of the matter is, the way that I understand it is, as relates to the Bible, you leave and cleave. You leave your parents and you cleave to your wife. So the truth is God, your partner, your wife, and then the children. And sometimes moms don't see it that way, which can cause a lot of issues in a relationship. So, yeah.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting that you the additional information that you put out there. I've noticed that within the African American community, we sometimes will tell our sons when dad is not there, you're the man of the house.
Right.
He's a child. He's 5 or 10 or whatever that age is, and
Or
that
16, he's still not a man, and he's not the man of that house. He ain't paying no bills. So you're absolutely right.
yeah, and sometimes our moms will once again, I still say that there's no malicious intent. It's an unconscious thing where she will get her emotional need fulfilled from this from this boy child because he's there and he's providing this extra attention,
Mhm.
this male attention that she might not be getting. But I began to notice this even when the father is present. I used to notice it when the father wasn't present, where the son is taking on a role that is emotionally inappropriate, where she's taking him to events. He's like her date for this event. This is my little man for the event, and so he's stepping into this role, and then I saw it in my family with one of my nephews. And then when his mom actually got a relationship, he felt misplaced.
Right. Right.
And there's this sense of betrayal.
Right.
Like, and so, but what I'm noticing now with some of my clients is that the father is in the house. And if the mom is upset with the husband, the father of the child, she's turning to her son
Right. Right. Right.
and depending upon him. And when I'm like, well, have you talked to your husband about, nope, I'm not going to do that, or I'll just have my son do it. And I'm like, okay, you're placing him in what you might not be noticing, maybe an inappropriate role for you right now.
Right. Right.
You're
Right.
using him as your support system. Have you noticed that in your practice?
So it's interesting you said something. I want to kind of go back. You said that you've noticed it, which I think we both have. But you made something very clear. You said you're noticing it with dads in the house, and I want to speak to that. I'm sure it happens, but my guess is that it's happening because the relationship between the mom and the dad isn't a strong one, like it's not a true partnership. Because what I notice is when there's a true partnership, and I don't want to step on any toes or have anybody to feel like, well, I do this to my son and me and my husband are good. When there's a true partnership, you don't even expect that your son is capable of providing anything. So when you truly depend on your husband, your partner to protect and provide, then you don't even see your son in a way that he could potentially do what you would need to happen, because that power dynamic just doesn't show up that way. And so I do believe that it happened when dads are in the house, but I do think it's one of those times that the dad, I want to say silent, right? And that's not fair, but I think it's when it's the dad is not as active in the house, and it's not such a strong partnership between the mom and the dad when the son wants to step up, because I think they step up because there's a lack of that they are seeing, and the mom is seeking this from her child because she isn't getting it from her partner, because again, it's not a true marital partnership, where the adults depend on each other. So
Now,
that's my thoughts.
absolutely. Now, that is what was going on. There isn't a true partnership between
Mm-hmm.
the husband and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what the son is doing. I'm looking at what the wife is doing. The wife is now seeking, pulling her son into it.
Right.
Yeah. And so now is the son probably, I don't know. That part I don't know because it wasn't a family session. I'm just looking at here's another instance that I hadn't noticed before in my couples work that I'm now seeing. But I'm glad that you pointed that out. There's this disconnect.
Yeah.
there's this where the mother or the wife is not getting some essential needs met from this
Hmm.
relationship from her husband
Right.
due to whatever, like they're not connected, they're going through whatever they're going through, but what she's doing now is getting her emotional need met from her son.
So let me say this. I think, and I could be wrong, but you were saying something like I'm not paying attention what the child is doing. This isn't really a issue of the child. This is really on the mom or the dad or the caregiver grooming a child to put them in a position to have them to feel there's this position of authority or of decision making. And so I don't think I don't know that the child is at fault when they do this. Now, if they've been doing this for years and now they get grown and now they're married and then they're still putting their mom first. And let me be clear with you, right? I do think we should honor our parents. So I don't want that to be the message that I'm passing. We should honor our parents, but there's order to everything, right? And um once a parent has raised their child to go out into the world as an adult, and the adult begins to develop relationships and get into a marriage, then that family is that husband and that wife, like the immediate family. um and so everybody else are not necessarily within the immediacy of that family. That doesn't mean that you don't love and honor your parents and even do for them. But I believe that that should be agreed upon. It should be in a mutual. It should be a mutual agreement. And I think that's what happens when a son has been parentified or when there has been this emotional incest. There's still this responsibility that they feel, and it feels real, right? Like, who are you to tell me that I can't take care of my mom? That's not the case. But there should be, I think that in order to create healthy boundaries, there should be an agreed upon relationship on how we help, how we support anybody, your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your grandmother. It should be an agreed upon thing that happens within a marriage when it comes to taking care of or supporting other people outside of the immediate family.
Hmm. So what I'm almost hearing like this uncommunicated expectation that needs to actually be talked about and determined so that there is no confusion beforehand, or even once children start showing up. What are we doing? How are we doing this? But I, so I absolutely agree with you with that. I wonder sometimes if moms are present to what they're doing. So, can we take a moment and talk about what this might look like so that they can see themselves? It's not blaming, but sometimes when we've been doing something, and as you said, if we've seen this done in our childhood and we tend to mimic behavior, so then it plays out in our relationships now that we're adults, is normal to us. So
Right.
you want to speak on that? Like maybe three things that someone could be aware of, like, oh, this is crossing an emotional boundary for your child, especially your male child. And as we already said, this can happen with girls as well.
Yeah.
So it's both ways.
So, look, thank you. I want to say this first. I don't think moms do it all the time, but I do think there's some intentionality in what they do because they're not getting what they need from men. And so they get it from their son. And I think they know exactly, not all the time, but I do think some moms know exactly what they're doing. Like they like, I am creating him to be the man that I've never had so that he can be there for his
Mhm.
wife. But then when he get to be an adult, she like still holding on with a bear claw, like, no, you my man. He like, mama. And he like, yes, I am your man. What can I do for you? And he's struggling to create healthy relationships with his wife. But this is what I would say, mamas, to look for. And I'm gonna tell you something. If what I'm saying to you, or if what I'm saying or what you're hearing is creating a frustration or anger, and you like, she don't know what she's talking about, and blah blah blah, I would encourage you to do some inner processing because that's an indication that you've been triggered. Your triggers are about you. If someone says something to you that pushes a button inside of you, it's because the button already exists. And so this is what I would say. If a mama or a father is talking to his child, I don't care if it's a teenager, about their romantic relationship, about
Mhm.
intimacy stuff, whether it's sexual or even emotional, right? If they're talking to their child about that, you are now jumping into emotional incest. If you are talking about finances, like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna make it, or we broke, or I'm wondering if I can. If you're having these adult conversations with a child who ultimately cannot help you, but only, not bury, but carry that burden of, oh my gosh, mom is struggling, you have entered into emotional incest. If you are treating your child to make rules around the entire house, around what can happen, who can come, who can't come. Like, if the mom is, if the son is like, the mom got a boyfriend, and the son is like, he can't come over here, no visitors after 10, and she's the adult or he's the adult, and he or she pays the bills, and you're allowing your child, or your, because it may not even be a child, it could be a teenager. You're allowing that person to make rules and decisions about your well-being, financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. You have now entered into emotional incest, and has put a burden on the child that was not asked, and that is inappropriate and isn't needed. So, my
Those are
12.
really good ones. Those were excellent. You're absolutely right. And and as you said, it definitely places the child in an inappropriate relationship between you and that child.
Right.
And I like what you said is burdening the child as well,
Yeah.
because at this point they don't have the life experience, the skill set to
Right.
actually begin to address the things that you're
Right.
bringing to them,
Ooh, good one.
venting to them about. And sometimes it can even be work relationships or your friendships. When you find yourself complaining or venting or sharing
Right.
information that you should be talking to a friend with,
I
then
like
then you have definitely stepped out of a healthy zone. It would be nice to know, and maybe we'll leave this for another
that.
conversation. How do you bounce back from that? How do you, when you recognize yourself, like, oh my goodness, I have been doing this, how do you shift? But
Mm.
we are at time right now, but that's a topic for the next month. How do you shift away from this emotional incest, even as an adult? Because you're right, sometimes we mothers will say, I want to raise my son to be a good husband, a good boyfriend, a good partner, and then we won't release them. Um, that's all we have for today. Any closing thoughts, Dr. LaMarr, before we get out of here?
No, I like this. This was a really good topic. I just want to say and reiterate that um, covert incest, or better known as emotional incest, it isn't just with moms and their sons. It's also with dads and their daughters, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a female to child, male child. It can also be. Oh, I can even imagine it could be mom to daughter. I can imagine where the mom has parentified the
Mhm.
child. So the point that I'm making is, if you found yourself, struggling with your relationship with your child, and also with a partner, or being able to create a relationship with a partner, I would strongly encourage you to begin to do some internal work around this topic, and reach out to somebody if anything we said was triggering. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. Thank you guys for tuning in.
All right, we'll see you on the next one.